Hello and welcome to the NBA Minutes to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Talking about some injury concerns, some minutes. They're going to go up and down and things like that based on these injuries. Some of them significant, some of them not significant, but we'll go ahead and run down just about all of them for you. At point guard, once again, Jared Bayless, Grievous Vasquez, both out. So I guess we're going to see some more point OJ Mayo, who first two games was just relative to salary, very good, not great. And then last time out against the Clippers, 14, 4, and 8, 31.8 fantasy points, solid. And now he'll end up seeing a lot of Kyle Lowry tonight, assuming that he's running the point again, which he should be, because Michael Carter-Williams is not a very consistent player, to put it nicely. He does have upside. I mean, Carter-Williams has had those two random big games. He's had a 42, a 37, and a 31 in his last six, but also a 19, and 18, and 18. So he's a good tournament play. I think OJ Mayo, good in both formats, though, for me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. MCW, pretty cheap for his upside, so if you want to toss him in a tournament, should get a bump in minutes unless you get some kid's doghouse and all of a sudden just plays 15 and they run Mayo into the ground.
Which no one would be surprised about, so definitely be wary of that. Jordan Clarkson, another guy. It was listed as questionable for tonight, but I mean, it's the Spurs. Clarkson wasn't producing at an extremely high level recently anyway. You and I were talking about this game. It could be a blowout if the Spurs want it to be. Maybe some guys sit. We've seen this in the past, but you know, the whole Duncan versus Kobe thing. I'm not sure if they play later in the season. I worry about today, but either way, it's just not a game that really has much appeal to me at all.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's going to be a blowout, and I think if they don't rest guys, they're probably going to go extremely down to the bench, because I'm sure the bottom five of the Spurs bench could outplay the starting five for the Lakers at this point.
Yeah, so I think it could be a situation of, you know, kind of like the Sixers game, not 51 points, but I mean in the sense that they like
it could be 51.
Well, it certainly could. But yeah, like you said, I expect everyone probably will play, but I don't think anyone plays more than low 20s in minutes. I mean, top to bottom. Yeah. So it's a no thanks for me. Shooting guard, obviously Klay Thompson, the big issue here, the big problem potentially. Did roll his ankle a couple days ago. They said he took some jumpers yesterday at practice, right ankle sprain. Obviously, they say need to win games. The Warriors don't need to win any of these games right now in their current state. But obviously, things change a lot if Klay Thompson plays or does not play. You've got guys behind him like Sean Livingston, Brandon Rush. There's just a whole lot of guys that could potentially step up and take on some extra minutes. Leandro Barbosa is another guy who didn't practice yesterday because he was sick. He's day-to-day. So a lot of the Golden State backcourt depends on the status of Klay Thompson. But let's assume that all these guys play. Let's say that Klay Thompson plays. I'm certainly still playing him at his price. Bumped up a little bit from last game, but if he plays, that tells me they don't have any concerns about his health.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. And you got to look at the total. It's sitting at 216, which is a 6.5 point spread. So it's going to be like the Pacers game, where it's just a bucket of fantasy points from each side, and you're definitely going to want to get some shares.
Yeah, absolutely. If Barbosa sits and Klay Thompson sit, I will have a couple shares of Sean Livingston. I mean, he's not a guy with huge upside, but he's just about minimum, if not absolute minimum, pretty much everywhere. So he's a guy I'll throw in a bullet a couple places, because we've seen him play alongside Curry or run the second unit. So certainly some upside at his price. Other shooting guard guys tonight, some concerns. J.R. Smith is going to sit out tonight against Orlando. He has an illness. Apparently everyone has an illness right now. You and I are like the only people that aren't sick. But they say Iman Shumpert may be making his debut. He's been cleared to play. Even if he does play, you don't expect he's going to play a full complement of minutes, of course, in his first game. But then you've got guys like Mo Williams and Matthew Dellavedova who are likely going to take on a bigger role either way, even if Shumpert does come back. So neither one of those guys are guys that I love. But, I mean, you could throw either one of them in a tournament, because you got to imagine they're both going to play mid to upper 30s in minutes with J.R. Smith out.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer Mo Williams just because he's a better scorer. And he's still pretty cheap, and the matchup's pretty solid against Orlando. So, not playing already, at least we know. But it all depends on Shumpert if he comes in and tosses some minutes into the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we get something definitive about how many how many minutes he'll likely see. Another guy here, Gary Harris, been dealing with a concussion recently. He was out the last game, looks like the last 6 games, and officially listed as questionable for tonight. He's going to obviously try to play, but he's a guy that even if he does play, you're not playing him his first game back from a concussion. Doesn't really affect Will Barton much. Obviously, Will Barton, the key player for Denver off the bench there, so really doesn't change anything for me. I wouldn't be playing Gary Harris anyway.
Yeah, it just means you don't have to roster Randy Foye anymore for bare minimum and hope he gets you over 20 fantasy points, so you can stop that.
Yeah, now there's no longer a debate between Randy Foye and Aaron Aflalo for the least productive shooting guard on earth. So, it's fortunately we can avoid that situation. I don't have the patience to play a guy like Randy Foye, even in my tournaments. I did play him. He did ruin a good team of mine about a week ago. I was kind of hoping for one of those lightning in a bottle type of games, but I don't think those exist anymore with Randy Foye in his current state. Small forward options here. DeMarre Carroll, nothing official for tonight. Hasn't officially been ruled out, but I don't think he even really has a timetable for return. It's indefinite, so you assume that he's not going to play today. Same goes for Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes, obviously, not a whole lot changing because he's out. I mean, you got Andre Iguodala, who really didn't see the big bump that we thought he would there. Really, it's just more production for the same guys who already have plenty of production for this team. So that doesn't change much for me. As far as the DeMarre Carroll situation, I mean, originally we thought it would be James Johnson, who we've seen get minutes before, but obviously that's not the case. He's a guy that you just completely avoid. Really, it's been Terrence Ross that got all the big minutes recently. And 39 minutes against the Lakers with 33 fantasy points, then 27 against the Spurs, 8.6 fantasy points. So hopefully when we told you not to play him against the Spurs, you didn't. He's a guy you can consider against Milwaukee, but I mean, he's so volatile and so scoring dependent that, I mean, you need to play a bad team like the Lakers for him to really have upside at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, shooting guard 3,600 on DK. I guess it's not a bad punt if you want to, but I'm not really expecting a lot from him. Definitely not Lakers scores.
Who would you rather have on your real team, Randy Foye or Terrence Ross?
I just play with 4 guys?
No, not an option.
Give me Ross.
Yeah, because at least he can dunk.
For the show, yeah, I got to put on something for the fans.
Yeah, I don't think Randy Foye's even. I don't think I've ever seen him dunk. I mean, he's just too. He's not flashy enough. Yeah, you got to sell tickets somehow. But moving on to power forward here, most of the concerns, as they seemingly always are with Washington. Nene, Drew Gooden, both out. Chris Humphries is listed as questionable for tonight. He may sit out as well. So, as usual, tons of injuries for this team down low. Marcin Gortat, though, finally back. I'll say finally. He only missed 3 games, but played very well against Houston in a tough matchup against Dwight Howard. Now he gets a matchup against, it doesn't matter, whoever is playing at that moment at center for New Orleans. And you were saying earlier, and it's hard to disagree with it, I mean, dollar for dollar, Marcin Gortat, easily one of my favorite center plays. I know he's one of your favorite, but I mean, as far as any position, he's still one of favorites of ours.
Yeah, hovering just above 6K. I mean, in this matchup, I think he's an easy lock for me in cash games and even for tournaments. I mean, the guy's just delivering right now. 4 straight double-doubles.
Yeah, and especially when you consider things like Tyson Chandler, expected to at least give it a go tonight. He's questionable, so there goes your Alex Len value play. Obviously, Tyson Chandler, not a guy that's really on any radars anyway. It doesn't produce at a high level on offense, so really it just takes away from Alex Len, so that's unfortunate there. But definitely still monitor that status, because if Chandler does sit, then you still have Alex Len to play there. At center, other center guys, obviously most of these injuries are ones that aren't new. Rudy Gobert, out. We got Al Jefferson is out. Hassan Whiteside's an interesting one. He did not practice yesterday. He's listed as questionable with an ankle sprain. So if he doesn't go, I mean, he's a guy who wasn't playing huge minutes anyway, getting in a lot of foul trouble and things of that nature. But Chris Bosh could definitely take on a bigger role. And this is an Indiana front court that is just not good. I mean, it's a pretty bad front court. They give up a good amount of rebounds. They don't defend well. And, I mean, while Chris Bosh isn't the bang in the paint, get it 15, 18 rebounds in this type of matchup guy, I mean, he's still the guy that can produce at a pretty high level if Whiteside does sit.
Yeah, I definitely like Bosh. He'll be forcing to grab some more rebounds. And if you're looking for guys to fill in for Whiteside, just don't look here because it's going to be guys like Udonis Haslem and Chris Anderson if he does sit, which you just don't want any pieces of anyway.
No, I mean Chris Anderson. You could tell me that Chris Anderson's playing 30 minutes, which he's not. Don't take that as actual literal. But even if he was playing 30 minutes, it's a no thanks for me. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's really nobody down there that you feel even decent about. That's Miami's biggest issue, as it has been since the original LeBron move over. That, I mean, they just don't have depth, especially in the front court. So definitely going to be a lot of concentrated value there. So could be good from a fantasy standpoint if this is a competitive game that Bosch, Wade, those guys take on a little bit bigger of a role with Whiteside potentially out. So. All right, that's going to wrap things up here for us for the Minutes to Win It podcast. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the rest of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.